every field of human endeavor, you study every problem-solving process in every profession without an exception, and you'll always find to understand precedes action. To understand precedes judgment. Lawyers go through a discovery process, often even prepare the case for the opposing counsel. Doctors diagnose before they prescribe. Teachers pre-assess before they teach. What does the amateur salesperson do? Sells products. What does the professional salesperson do? Sells solutions. It's habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The tendency in almost all people initially is to want to be understood, or if they do seek to understand, they seek with the intent to reply, with the intent to in some way influence, to some way bring the person about, to accomplish their own end, not with the intent to understand. Now, what's your first name?
Hal.
Hal? Why does Hal wear those glasses?
See better.
Okay, but what did the optometrist do before he prescribed? He diagnosed. The optometrist tried to understand. The optometrist was first influenced before attempting to influence. And that helped in the diagnosis and the prescription. And that is why Hal wears these glasses. Can I borrow your glasses for a second?
You'll love these. These will really change your paradigm.
These are more powerful? My friend, you've liked these, haven't you?
A long time.
For a long time. We're sure they'll help you.
Whoa.
Whoa! My friend. What's your first name?
Anna.
Anna? Try harder. I mean, really give those lenses the college try. That help you now?
No.
No. Think positively. I mean, there's nothing wrong, Anna, with this program that a good positive attitude can't correct.
Dizzy.
Getting dizzy? This is the company way, Anna. How current your resume? You like them now?
No.
They look good on you, Anna. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
See, we all feel they look good on you. Anna, daughter, your mother and I, for many years, have distilled the wisdom of our life for your benefit. That's intergenerational wisdom too, Anna. We've learned it from before. And we put them in the form of those lenses. We've done our best. Anna, you like them now?
They're great, but I still can't see.
They're great, but I can't see. That's kind of a double message, Anna. I mean, do you have any idea the kinds of sacrifices that your mother and I have made for you? The things we have done for your benefit? Huh? In fact, you know what your mother even did to bring you into the world? And the efforts we're making to give to you every opportunity? I mean, what more do we have to say to you? Anna? Like them now?
No.
She's got some integrity. Usually people capitulate. But usually I don't give them that strong of a lens. When they capitulate, I then move to the next person. How do you like them?
I like them.
Okay, then you have to learn the rest of the day.
That's right. For all those who are quick studies, they are rewarded. You can wear them the rest of the afternoon. Are those tears of gratitude? There you are, my friend. You can see again. I could feel your anxiety level. Now, when I'm convinced I'm right, when you're convinced you're right, do we really want other people's opinions? How many of us, when we are in that mental state, use those methods? You may not use the more extreme ones. You may just simply use the more common ones. Try harder. Just think positively. It'll make the difference.
What's so scary is if you don't use those methods and you let somebody talk, seek first to understand, you might have your mind changed. And a lot of us don't want our mind changed. We want to stay on that same path that we feel comfortable with.
Very interesting what he just said. If we really start listening, you may be influenced, particularly if our security lies in being right. If you really seek to understand, you run the risk. You're vulnerable. Can you begin to get a better understanding as to why we have the private victory of 1, 2, and 3? Why?
Self-confidence.
Okay, the confidence, your security, comes from integrity to principles, not from being right. So you could be the first person to say, I was wrong. You learn real fast. But almost everyone is anxious to prescribe glasses for eyes they have not diagnosed, because if they really engage in a meaningful dialogue with me, they become vulnerable themselves. It exposes sometimes their own center, their own need to be right, their own need to give wise counsel, to shape up this son, this daughter, this employee, even this customer. You don't know what you need. We know what you need. We'll tell you. Habit 6, synergize, in a sense, is the fruit of the spirit of win-win. Habit 4, the spirit of seeking first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 5. Then what happens is a very powerful thing. When people begin to interact together genuinely and they're open to each other's influence, they begin to get new insight. Something happens to them both. It creates the possibility of third alternatives, not the either-or approach, not win-lose, lose-win, not compromise. Compromise is 1 + 1 = 1.5. Positive synergy is 1 + 1 = 3. Negative synergy, 1 + 1 = 1/2. In other words, so much of the effort and energy is spent in the adversarialism, in conflict and defensive and protective communication, that literally it just wastes the energy of the enterprise, of the marriage, of the family. Anyone who's experienced sustained conflict and contention, they know that very little productivity can come out. So just remember those definitions. Synergy is where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Synergy means you can literally produce something that neither of you could have produced before, and even adding what each can produce separately, 1 + 1 = 2, is not synergy. Negative synergy, where there is internal contention and adversarialism, produces less than even what one person can usually produce on their own, because so much of the energy is wasted going in the wrong direction and is counterproductive. Now, the traditional paradigm is one of compromise. That's literally where most people think we end up realistically, and it often is the case if you're in low-trust cultures. But compromise isn't necessary if people will pay the price with habits 4, 5, and 6. The key to habit 6, synergize, in fact, you could almost say the fundamental principle of 6 is to always value differences. It's not something you just accept that there are differences. It's not something that you tolerate. It's not something that is legislated through diversity programs. It is something that you celebrate. I mean, genuinely, the strength lies in differences, not in similarities. However, if there is not a common purpose and a common set of principles, a buy-in to these universal principles we've been talking about, diversity, differences, can result in chaos and negative synergy. And it spawns prejudice, prejudgment. And remember, prejudice is a protection against being vulnerable. If I get my security from my ability to manipulate people as things, and I can classify them, it protects me, see? I don't have to deal with people. I just deal with categories, and I have them labeled, and then I get into the self-fulfilling prophecy, and it is a seedbed to all kinds of other problems. That's why it requires this integrity of the first 3 habits. It requires the development of a common purpose, a common sense of meaning, a common sense of mission. What is it we're about? The moment you can achieve that, then run with differences in perceptions, in gifts, in talents. The more you have difference, the better. The capability of inventing new approaches, third alternatives, is increased exponentially because of differences. Strength literally lies in difference. These aren't just nice words to value differences. These are moral imperatives for those that really want to solve problems in entirely new ways. Go for synergy. So the moment someone disagrees with you, what do you say to them? Good. You see it differently. That's why I so value my wife's input, because I'll say, well, how do you see it? And she'll see it totally differently. But honestly, if you can learn to value differences and teach your children, the moment there's a difference, run with it. It's an advantage, not a disadvantage. Let's take an issue, say, on the environment. That's a tender area for many people. They have very strong feelings. How many here tend to be really strongly identified with kind of the purest approach to the protection and preservation of our environment, our water, our air, and so forth. How many feel like that purist approach goes simply too far and does not respect enough the necessity for the development, and that it can be done in a way that will not violate? They would tend to be more on the other side of this continuum. Looks like about equal, doesn't it? Can we have a representative of the first one? Someone? Okay, would you come down for a moment? A representative of the second one? You have to be a person who really feels strong that the environmental thing has just simply gone way too far. It's out of whack. Someone? Anyone be a representative? Okay, would you come down, please? You're?
Diana.
Diana? Mm-hmm. And you're?
Carl.
Carl. Good. Meet Diana.
Hi, Diana.
Hi, Carl.
All right, now, I'm going to ask them both that, are you prepared to look for a solution that is better than the one you have in your head right now?
Yes.
Or the one that you have in your head?
Okay, yes.
Are you?
Kind of. I am. I just think they're trashing our planet.
Yeah, you have strong feelings about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Right, and that we're going to suffer irreparably.
Of course, look at the rainforest. Look what they're doing. You should see our canyons. Okay, so yeah, but I am open-minded.
Now, why does habit 4 precede habit 5? Now look, they need to have a kind of common purpose, which is what? Synergy. The purpose is to find a solution that is better than the one she's going to recommend, and better than the one he believes in. Better. Now, I don't believe in the short period of time we're going to do this. We may be able to achieve it. Usually it takes about an hour to 2. Now, are you prepared to go for a solution, not the one that you're thinking of in your mind, but one that is better than the one you're thinking of?
Yes.
What is the goal here? Yeah, they've got to think deeply win-win toward the purpose of synergy. Synergy is the fruit. So your purpose is to go for synergy. Now, unless they're anchored sufficiently inside themselves that the security lies primarily not in their positions and views, but in their integrity to principles, I really question whether people can practice habits 4, 5, and 6. But this woman feels deep and strong. And we have to be careful that we don't judge her. See, to judge her because of her deep convictions would put us into kind of a win-lose attitude toward her. And also with him. Maybe he hasn't articulated the depth of his feeling to the rest of us as much, but they both have at least a tentative attitude toward win-win. Tentative. They don't know what it's going to be, and that usually happens. You don't know what's going to happen. A third mind has to be created, but I could guarantee you, once you get that, you're on your way to third alternatives. Now I'm going to intervene occasionally to kind of reinforce the habits, but you two go ahead and communicate for a minute.
I believe that the forests, the valleys, everything should be kept pristine so that we can enjoy them that way. I don't think we need all this other stuff.
I can appreciate that point of view, but there's a certain amount of technology and progress we do need to make.
But why? That's what they've said since the beginning of all time, and look what they've done.
I understand that, but let me see if I can help us both understand this idea.
Seek first to
She has
understand.
nice synthetic clothes on.
Yes. This was from a silkworm.
Okay. How are the shoes?
the shoes, they're.
Not any dead animals there? No cows?
No dead
leather?
animals.
No leather?
No dead
I
animals.
like my leather shoes, but let me just say,
Yeah, so did the
Right.
cow.
I appreciate that there has to be a reasonable amount of progress.
Right,
There has to be a reasonable amount of preservation.
right. Don't you think progress has gone too far, though?
Apparently you do.
Well, I don't know. This is just
And
thread.
most of the
Thread and
people.
cotton.
That's right, but we make it out of petroleum. I'm just suggesting that
Okay.
there's a certain amount of progress, of technology, of production that we do need. Some say the production machine has gone too far, that we're spoiling the environment. I think we ought to be cautious. We have to be reasonable. Do you agree?
But isn't that what everyone said since the beginning of all time? I
Okay,
mean,
now let me ask the two of you for a moment. What is habit 5? Could you both restate habit 5?
To understand.
To understand and be understood?
To understand first or second?
First.
What has been our initial tendency here?
To help her understand. To help her with habit 5.
You need that, see?
Thank you. I feel so much better now. Well, why don't y'all understand? What's the problem here? No, I do understand. I do.
Let's establish a ground rule. You cannot make your point until you restate the other's point to his or her satisfaction. Now, I'm going to insist on that, and the other has to feel understood.
You want me to
Okay,
restate his point?
yes. Go ahead and restate his point.
Okay, so you believe that with caution.
This is where you see the magic thing happening.
Progress should move forward, and because it would
Air.
help, our economy? Is that what you're saying? Or tell me why you think we need to move forward.
Wait a minute. You can't ask questions because, in a sense, your questions are rhetorical statements.
Okay,
You have to restate his point of view until he feels understood. And you can't do anything until that's been
it's so
done.
hard when I don't understand him. Okay, so you believe that we should move forward with technology
In a cautious way,
in a cautious way,
preserving the environment.
preserving the environment. Okay?
It's a very difficult balance to give. When the demand is high for production
Uh-huh.
and maybe regulation is low on the environment, it's easy to let the bottom line push the production. And so
The test of 5
it's
is,
difficult.
do you listen with the intent to reply or with the intent to understand?
So you're
That's the thing to
saying
look for.
that if we use proper balance and watch what we're producing, that we can do this with wisdom and it won't affect the environment so badly that my little critters will die?
Well, I hope so. I think so. And what about the environment?
What about the environment?
Do you feel like that she understands at least the first part of your feelings and your convictions?
Partially, I think. I don't know if she's mimicking yet or not. I can find out, though.
It's not that she It's not that she agrees. That's not the issue.
All right.
She's not even taking a position. She's only seeking to understand. Do you feel like she has achieved that? At least, not the deepest understanding, but as much as you've kind of said to this point. You don't know.
I
You
don't
really
know.
question it. Let me ask you for a moment. As you are listening to him, are you preparing your reply?
No,
Are you judging what he's saying?
I'm trying very hard to listen.
You're really working hard. I can tell
Very
that.
hard to listen. And I'm
Yeah,
really trying hard to understand.
you're really trying hard to
They're two
understand.
different things. Listening and understanding are two different
Well,
things.
you're listening for understanding, not listening to reply, not listening to
I'm listening for
judge.
understanding.
You're listening for understanding, which means you have to get into his frame of reference, how he sees it, see?
I know.
Until he feels understood. What, first of all, do you notice between the spirit between the two of you right now, compared to before,
I'm listening.
right?
Less adversarial?
Isn't it a lot less adversarial?
Right. That's true.
And adversarialism is a seedbed to all kinds of other things. So you're avoiding that seedbed. All right, now, maybe on a 10-point scale, would you give her a 5?
Yes.
All right. What would you have given yourself?
A 1.
A 1? Well, that's interesting. That's the use of self-knowledge, see? That is so vital because when you're working with yourself, you're saying, wait a minute. Be patient. My day in court will come. My job now is to only understand. I am not to judge. I am not to agree. I am not to disagree. I'm going to persist. I would give myself a 1. My guess is his 5 was generous. But let's just persist for a moment and ask you to do the same thing, okay?
To understand her.
You try to go, if you can, for an 8 or 9 or 10.
Okay.
In other words, make her point as well as she made it and express the depth of her conviction. Go ahead.
How bad is the environment?
It's terrible. It's so bad. You should go up in the mountains and see it. It's sad what they're doing to the animals. It's terrible. We can't do this. What are we leaving to our children?
Okay.
What is my granddaughter going to have?
So the future
The
is
future
grim.
depends on us. I mean, look what we've done. It's our generation. We're the one that sophisticated everything. We're the one that we're dumping all that garbage in our oceans.
So we're the responsible group.
Exactly. We're the ones that have to stop it and change the way we're looking at the environment.
All right. So we've got to do the intervention. We've got to make the change. We've got to
Who
turn it
else will?
around.
The animals can't do it. I mean, seriously, who can do it for them? If we aren't economically responsible, who will be?
Okay.
Okay, now try to fully express as much as you can her whole expression that she's given from the beginning. And let's see if she feels understood.
Okay. The environment is going down in quality, and the animals are suffering. The landscape is suffering. It's changing its appearance. The people in time will have a lower quality of life because the environment is getting worse, and the children will inherit something of lesser quality than we have today. The animals are suffering because we're putting on them garbage, and we're destroying their environment, their quality of life.
Exactly. It's true.
Okay, now, what would you give him on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of his understanding of your point? Not that he's taken any position on it yet.
I'd give him a 7 or an 8.
7 or an 8. What would you have given yourself?
Probably not quite that high.
Did you find yourself kind of preparing to reply a little? Waiting for, it's my turn a little later and therefore I'll kind of use this? Or were you genuinely empathic in understanding?
Well, from listening to what we've talked about here the last couple of days, I did want to hear what she had to say and to see if I could see the validity of her point.
But see, then, in a sense, you're seeking to understand in order to judge later.
Or to take a position later.
Take a position later. What about the total openness of just seeking to understand with no intent to judge at all?
My initial thought would be, where am I going then? Where is this going if it's not going someplace? I guess I seek a direction.
What's our purpose? What is the goal we established? What's our habit to purpose? Is to find what?
Compromise?
Well,
Synergy?
to
A
find
compromise?
understanding.
Not a compromise.
No?
But
that's what
an
you really meant is
understanding.
synergy.
Right.
A higher understanding and a solution that is better than the one you're recommending and better than the one. See, that's your habit too. That's really what you're going after. It's better. I'll tell you why. You both live on this earth. Your families live on this earth. The whole human race is interdependent. That's your point. The ecological nature, which you also respect. Okay, now, what do the two of you sense just about the quality of the relationship with each other compared to the earlier interaction?
I would at least sit down and talk to him.
I can live in the same world she lives in.
You have no choice.
But I mean, I could live with the environmental movement. I can understand it.
Do you find yourself changed at all because of your respect for the fact of his convictions and feelings on this issue? I didn't say if your total position has changed at all,
Okay.
but your perception of him.
Yes, my perception of him.
How about you? Has your perception of her changed because of this little interaction at all?
I think I understand her position. I think what we should do in production is maybe have someone of the environment a part of the production process.
You know, when you did this little exercise here, or when you saw it done here, you noticed the real sincere effort of openness and wanting to be influenced, and then of having influence, and how synergy resulted. Well, I sense more of the spirit of reverence and respect than we saw earlier. Thank you both. Appreciate that. The little role play we saw here, why is it that that works? That it produces something that is synergistic? And by the way, some of you may be wondering, well, does that mean I sell out on my principles and values? The opposite. You actualize your principles and values, and when you come up with the last half of Habit 5, then to be understood, you can fully articulate. But when you go into Habit 6, synergy, the dynamic interaction of those people start to create solutions that are so opposite sometimes than the original intention of one for the other. These may be just words to you until you experience it. You could hear this and still tonight get embroiled with your spouse in a fight or with your kids. You could leave this very assembly and have some negative interaction with someone and immediately seek first to be understood. The most dreaded thing to happen in a marriage or in a family is to destroy the ability to communicate synergistically and to solve problems. You see the world not as it is, but as you are. Most of us tend to think we see objectively. Unaware, we're looking through our lens of experience, of conditioning, of scripting. We call that a paradigm, a pair of glasses, the frame of reference out of which you operate, the implicit assumptions you operate on. Now, the key to objectivity is to accept subjectivity, is to be aware. I do not see the world as it is. I see the world as I am. Therefore, if there is a difference, what? Someone else sees it differently based upon their experiences. I need their experience. Otherwise, I will suffer forever from an insufficiency of data. So this concept of valuing differences is just not a good idea. It's not just something that brings unity. It's something that creates, through a cooperative communication process, whole new options, new alternatives. And this idea of humility, of accepting your subjective involvement, is not just some nice principle. It is a reality that people see things differently. And you need access to that. And through the interaction, the spirit of win-win, habit 4, the spirit of seeking first to understand, then to be understood, habit 5, and as the people respectfully, empathically communicate with each other back and forth, something new happens. I mean, I maintain you can take any issue you want and create a third alternative if people will practice habits 4, 5, and 6. I am genuinely excited by this experience we just had because I see in the power of 4, 5, and 6 the capability of solving any human problem.